You're listening to Sarah Talk. It's political.
You could run a fucking pet rock against Donald Trump, and I would vote for the pet rock.
Yeah.
That's where we're at right
Yeah.
Critical.
One of the things that drives me nuts as an atheist is that my polling location is at a church. And I don't necessarily have a problem. I'm not going to like burst into flames walking into a church.
Now, after being on this show and having heard your viewpoints on some things, my advice to you is don't test this. I won't burst into flames.
And positively LGBT positive.
In many states, you can still be evicted from housing simply for being gay or transgender. Stand and fight with us.
Oh, and occasionally completely absurd.
I don't know if you've ever seen a lightning bug, but he flies around with a flame of light coming out of his behind. The lightning bug got a flame coming out of his butt.
It's a beautiful night tonight. All the sodomites are out.
And now, from Orlando, Florida, your host, Sarah Austin.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sarah Talk, Saturday Night House Party.
Woohoo, Saturday night.
This is so much better since we changed time.
I love Saturday night.
We're going to talk about a ton of shit tonight. I have so much. I have 9 pages.
Yes.
We have a lot of news to get to in the second half of the show. We're going to talk about our trip back home to Podunk, Illinois.
Woohoo.
I have a gift for you.
Oh. Wait, what's this? It's in a pink sparkly bag.
And you can't open it until...
What's that?
And you can't open it until...
I'm going to only open it if you promise to play whatever that was while I'm opening it. It sounded extravagant.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
I will happily do that. But first, Tony Duchesne is joining us tonight.
I'm so excited.
Tony is a writer whose work has appeared in the Los Angeles Times, Mother Jones, Penthouse, a number of media outlets. He's joining us today to talk about Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk, of which he is both the author and award-winning screenwriter. Tony, welcome to Sarah Talk.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Dude, we are so fucking stoked to talk to you.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I mean,
somebody is.
I have a history, kind of a background in broadcast radio, so there's a connection already there. And my wife Becca here in the studio is an ex-Jehovah's Witness. So
no way.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Okay. We're going to be talking.
We have a
for a
lot
while.
to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about.
So let's jump right in and talk about the book first, Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk. It's a love story, it's a comedy, it's a drama, and it opens up the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses in a particularly interesting way, I thought. Now, this isn't the Tony Duchesne story, right? But it has a lot of your own experiences.
Yeah, a lot of the scenes in there actually did happen, and there's a very good chunk that never happened.
Okay.
So, personally to me, a lot of the Jehovah's Witness stuff actually did happen to me, and then I took liberty to create, because I tried to create entertainment at the same time, because I didn't want to do, and this happened, so, and hopefully, I came across, but I was in, the lead character in the book, Gabe, he gets out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, when he's still a teenager, but I stayed in until I was in my 20s. So he's kind of cooler than I am. I think I got to pretend I was cooler by making it fiction if I did it that way.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now it's sort of a coming of age story. And I think like we all connect with that on a real basic level, but also like it gave me as a have never had experiences with the Jehovah's Witness organization. It gave me some insight into like what my wife's experience as a young Jehovah's Witness might have been like. Like Becca tells me stories every now and then, but this like really filled in the color of that picture.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I read this
Sorry.
book. No, you're fine.
Oh, go ahead.
I got to tell you, I read this book and I'm like going through my second read right now. And I just loved the fact that it wasn't written to one audience. you could read it as an ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm sorry, I'm going to fumble over my words. I'm going to fangirl for a minute.
Yeah, right.
Aw.
So you can read it as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, pick up on all the little details. And then if you're like, my wife has no experience whatsoever, but she still was able to read it and enjoy it and not really miss out on anything. So I really am interested in to know what the writing process like was for that. Like, oh my God, I'm a mess. I'm sorry.
And
No,
I'm the one
it's okay. I'm a
drinking.
mess.
But no, like what was the writing process like that? Because it's really difficult to play to different audiences without losing one or the other.
Yeah.
It was hell, actually. It was years of grueling rewrites and crafting, and I even brought it to. I workshopped it in groups in early drafts because I wanted, we have our vernacular in the Jehovah's Witnesses where we say one thing and we all know what we're talking about, and people look at us like we're aliens. And so, but I didn't want to slam that information down too much on the reader. I wanted it to play out.
Right.
So I did a lot of workshopping with people who had no idea who Jehovah's Witnesses were. And I'd be like, did you get the gist of this? And they're like, yeah, I got the vibe. And as long as they got the gist, I'm like, all right, let's just pretend it's a French word and people can figure it out themselves. And yeah, it was just, I mean, for the most part, I was really trying to stay on top of Gabe because Gabe is the hero. So stay on top of him. And then everything else, even the Jehovah's Witnesses, was kind of secondary. Mm-hmm. As far as I was writing it, I was writing this just love story that just happened to be set in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and in a total Jehovah's Witness mindfuck because I got a lot of research on that.
Yeah,
and I'm both getting mindfucked and a Jehovah's Witness. So yeah, so that's kind of how the process went. It took a while. It was and it took like years of therapy too to actually be able to kind of really just open up about it. So the whole process, it took a lot longer than I thought it ever would.
Now, early in the book, Gabe is having a conversation. He's talking about worldly relatives teasing him about not celebrating anything. And again, like, that's something that I connect with because Becca and I have had these conversations about like, oh, I didn't get to celebrate birthdays and I had to go into another room when they wanted to do the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But Gabe says, like, the conversation is Gabe says, well, but that's what it says in the Bible. And then when he's pushed back and asked, okay, where? He doesn't know. For you in your own experience, like, at what point did I don't know become problematic enough that you were like, okay, I have to do something?
Oh, in my experience, I bought into it for a little while. So, I mean, I was like totally in the belief system. So when, and that was a trip. And then I had to get out of that. So I don't know actually turned into, I did my research and I researched like the Jehovah's Witness publications, and I've actually like read the Bible a couple of times. That's how nerdy I was on this whole thing. And so for me, it was about seeking truth because I started to see little what do you call it? I started to see holes that were upsetting me, and that was in my 20s, and that's when a lot of bad things happened in our family. Including like suicide and my dad having a nervous breakdown, where it kind of really opened up just how shitty they can be if they can't explain something. And then that's when I started like kind of researching myself and actually reading books that weren't from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah. That opened up everything to me. Because I was at my wit's end. And so I started reading self-help books. And then before I knew it, I was in the poetry section. And the next thing I know, I'm reading like, these great novels. And I'm going, wait a second, I've never read anything like this before. This is awesome. I didn't know reading was fun. So, because I mean, and the Jehovah's Witness literature, it's just like boring and tedious, just
literally makes your eyes burn.
Yeah, it's total brainwashing. It's just like, let's just keep it on a little, but that little tone of, but we'll all stay together. Just trust in Jehovah. If you don't understand, just trust in Jehovah. And you're just nodding your head going, thank you. This Kool-Aid tastes good today.
Yeah.
Can I have another?
Well, Becca, you had said something to me about like your experience in just reading, like not being interested in reading because of that experience.
It's still hard for me to read. Like when and that's why I say I love this book.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to pick up a book and not want to just put it down. There's very few books that I'll actually sit and read, and this one I couldn't put it down. I think I read it in 2 days.
Yeah,
and that's a feat when I have 2 kids that I'm chasing around all day. It for me, that was my takeaway was I just don't like to read. If I can listen to it on an audiobook, I'm great, but it's very hard for me to sit down and read anything.
Because they would just shove so much literature down our throat. We had to read all that crap, and it's just like I just did not know reading was awesome and writing was. I got to know the different writers by going to the library, and I'm just going, man, this stuff speaks to me like nothing I've ever heard or read. I guess I should say.
I remember
more precise.
I remember they used to send the Watchtower and Awakes to you in the mail. You could sign up to get the subscription. And I remember at some point, I would get so fed up with being asked if I read it that I would start hiding them if I found them in the mail.
Oh, funny. And they used to come in those brown paper wrappers too, like it was porn, right?
Yeah, it was like so weird. You're like, what's that secret brown piece of mail you've got there? Oh,
I know. I wish I would have saved those.
Right?
It looked like contraband.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of hit home for me, and again, like we've talked about some of these topics in just grazing the surface on past shows, but so I kind of knew this going in, but I guess it didn't really sink into me. But the idea that the Watchtower prescribes all of these things, these pagan holidays, the birthdays, the flag. Then you get shit on by your friends for being the weird kid, right? So they create the environment that supports this persecution complex that they've taught you from the start. That I kind of had a good handle on, right? I thought, I got a good understanding of that. All right, that makes sense. Most religions do that kind of stuff. That maybe Jehovah's Witness to the little extreme, yeah. But this idea that like one day in the new system, all of those worldly people who were assholes to you are going to be gone, and you won't be persecuted anymore. And not only that, you can move into their house if you want.
Yep.
What? That is just so fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Did you have that? Did you have that experience?
I did.
When you were growing up.
Okay,
cool. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I thought it was just regional here,
no,
and then I was just like.
All the time. I grew up in South Florida, and so we had like a very diverse line in the territory. And I had a really good friend who lived in like down. Well, her father was an elder in a southern congregation, like down by the beach where all the rich houses were. And so we went in field service with my congregation, and it was just normal neighborhoods. And then when we went in her service with her congregation, it was all the mansions on the beach, and we'd be like picking out our post Armageddon homes. All the time. Completely normal.
Isn't it weird? And then you just look at it and you're like, man, that's not even genocide. That's human side. We were hoping for the death of everybody.
Like, yeah. It was crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about this scene that you painted beautifully, the convention. It was It was every single convention I've ever been to in my life. I loved the way you described it. I'm reading this and I could almost smell the cologne-drenched auditorium. And all these desperate little teenagers walking around creepily looking at each other like, please notice me.
Yeah.
How deep did you have to dig for that? Because I didn't really remember that until I read it and it triggered these memories.
Oh, really? Oh, I was I was always like this just crazy romantic kid. So even when I was like really young, I was looking for other, they call them sisters in the congregation, other ladies. So I had the woman that I was going to marry picked out when I was like 6 years old. You know? And then that changed when a few days later. But it's and then as I got older, going to those district conventions, that was like, oh, we are going to see we're going to see the nectar of all the ladies from all over. What was kind of cool about it too, though, is that because in the congregation, they get on top of you the minute you like start dating anyone. They're like, what are your intentions? But if you kind of found someone from a congregation that was like far away enough, which I did a couple times, then you can kind of become pen pals and you can like meet up with each other and make out a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you're just like, oh my God, this is the one I'm going to marry. And then you're like, oh wow, she's kissing everybody. Damn it. Okay. Next. But it was, there was just, I remember it all very well. I don't know if it was, I wish I would have shut out a lot of, I wish I could selectively shut out a lot of my trauma. But there was weird fun in it too. It's, when we just being kids and just like, oh man, that, oh wow, she has dark clothing and this jewelry on. Oh, I bet you she knows, who Bauhaus is. And then you ask her and she knows, and you're like, oh, this is the one. This is it.
So did you get a lot of numbers walking around at lunchtime? Be honest.
Yeah, I did all right between like 16 and what was it? Ooh, 22. I mean, I left for a little bit and then I came back at 22.
Oh.
But I was okay on it. Yeah, I did what, in the book where he takes photos. I mean, that was my thing. That's
a good move. That was a signature move. I'll tell you, that was somebody.
Yeah, that was pretty. Yeah.
I wish I would have thought of that when I was.
Yeah, and it would just be like, where should I send this? And the next thing I know, I'm getting perfumed letters, 5-page perfumed letters from a girl like 45 minutes away from me.
Tony the player.
Jehovah's Witness player.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still trying to figure.
Right. Yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out all this other shit.
So let's talk about lunch options, because I threw the book down in laughter and Sarah looked at me from across the room like, what the hell? That has to be like, you listed the lunch options and I was like, yeah, the Shasta soda, those crappy hoagies that constipate you. But what I didn't notice in your list was Funyuns. Did you have Funyuns or was that just a South Florida thing?
That must have been a Florida thing because I don't even know what that is.
They're like onion rings, but in a potato chip. Like they're
oh, really?
Yeah. We had the Funyuns or regular potato chips. And to this day, the smell of Funyuns triggers me in a way that I don't understand.
Oh, we got chipped in San Francisco. I didn't know that. Oh,
you could pick between Funyuns or potato chips. And then we had like the Danish for breakfast or the crappy little knockoff of the Egg McMuffin sandwich.
I swear all that food, that was all manipulated so we can just be constipated so we would never leave our seats.
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
Just like, it would take every district convention, I'd be constipated for like 4 days and then all of a sudden I would release after I had an apple and it's just like, oh, what, thank God. The whole body's going, what is this?
We packed our lunches a lot. But yeah, I remember like very early, I guess it was regular assemblies, not conventions, we would get the sandwiches and stuff and it was horrible. But my mom got on a health kick at some point when I was like 10 or 11 and she started packing like salads and like good stuff. But those sandwiches were horrid.
Oh God. Yeah. I used to get up early and make those sandwiches. They had all the volunteers, but that was another way to meet the ladies.
Yeah, of course.
You just go there early and then if you're 16 years old, you can't have any privileges as a dude yet, I guess until you're like 18, then you can be an attendant.
Yeah.
But,
well, they've even lowered
hang
that
out with
now.
the ladies. Oh, have they?
Yeah. I think it's 16 now. I think it's 16.
Yeah, they're going to be 12-year-old attendants and elders in like a couple of years at this point.
Before we move off of the food conversation, Brandon in the Facebook Live says, Funyuns are the Earth's gift to us undeserving people.
No, Brandon. Take your negativity somewhere else, Brandon.
So we were on a plane. we were on a plane last weekend.
Oh, my gosh.
Back to Illinois. We flew into St. Louis.
Yeah. and Sarah said something, and I
could smell something.
I had smelled it, and I was like, God, what is that smell? I'm going to be sick. I'm going to hurt somebody. What? And Sarah finally said something about the guy sitting in front of her. Now, she was across the aisle from me. I was on one side with the two kids, and she was across the aisle. The guy directly in front of her was eating a bag of Funyuns, and she.
Wow.
But I'm sitting on this plane, and I'm like, who am I going to kill? That stinks.
Yeah.
Triggered.
Hate Funyuns.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gabe is dealing with like just normal puberty life stuff, hormones and urges, which religion in general tries to tamp down and control, but few like the "did you touch her, did you like it" sex obsessed J-dubs.
Yeah.
This was another point, where Becca had described like these backroom meetings, and I had the outline, but the book really filled in the color for me. And at some point you wake up and realize, wait, this isn't just a thing JWs do. Like, this is really weird and like super not appropriate. Was that the backroom policing of your thoughts and actions? Was that also kind of a slow progression towards discovering that you thought, okay, man, this ain't right? Or was there a moment that really stood out in your mind that kind of changed your view on that?
Yeah, I tended to be in those back rooms a lot. And then it turned out I was like, I find out like later everyone else was fucking each other in the congregation and just repenting, and I wasn't doing that, and they couldn't figure out what to do with me. And I'm like, what? I'm not doing anything, and I'd be back there for hours on end. But yeah, I was like, yeah, damn it, I could have got so much sex, I guess, or whatever, bad Jehovah's Witness sex. Anyway, I'll save that for my therapist's appointment on Monday.
There you go.
But what we were talking about, there was this one time, so I was bumped to a ministerial servant when I was 20. And I only lasted, that's like a junior elder, and I only lasted for about 6 months because I confessed to touching boobies and and smoking a cigarette once. So this was after my dad had a nervous breakdown. My uncle had killed himself. My sister had attempted suicide. The Loma Prieta earthquake happened in 1989 in San Francisco. And it was like all this like tragedy. And then I finally went in and confessed to the elders, all five of them. And as when I confessed, one elder went, "That's why Jehovah's Spirit's been taken away from your family." And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, no, I just sat there and nodded my head, but I was just like, yeah, no, I didn't cause this, nervous breakdowns and suicides. That's like, you guys aren't even helping my family. You're interrogating me more than saying anything to my dad, who's been serving as an elder for 9 years. So yeah, that was the breaking point. That was one of the first big, whoa, you got to be kidding me.
Wow.
Which is great. It's like, I'm glad they did that, fuck me up, because maybe I would have stayed in.
Yeah, it's true.
You could be there right now.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I know. So I could be lusting over huge mansions.
Right? Oh, the life. So I was an elder's daughter. I was a full-time pioneer by the time I was 16. And so I really connected with while Gabe was getting this guilt trip from his dad, and just that whole experience, basically him freaking out, hey, I'm going to lose my position. I really feel like that showcases how stressful it is to be the child of an elder, and they're held to such a higher standard. And I don't think that that's fair to either anybody in the family, really. So you just described this as basically your experience. They're telling you that's why Jehovah's not blessing your family or whatever.
Right.
So what I'm curious to know is, how did you cope with that? Was that was the point? So how long, once you got to that point, did it take you to break away from that and realize that the stress that they're causing is just bullshit?
Well, so after that meeting, I went to 2 more meetings, and then no one would talk to me. I didn't even know if I was going to have a committee meeting or not. and that's their judicial hearing. So finally I was like, you know what, I got to go. I'm out. And I'd been such a fan of a college radio station in the Bay Area. I'm just like, I'm going to go see what it's like to take classes. I didn't know I could just take a class and join a radio station, after you take all your training. And so I just did that, and I left. And that was my new congregation for a while, was the radio station. And I would be there a few times a week, volunteering and doing all of that. So I left then. But I still had the belief system, and I still thought I was going to die at Armageddon, and I got suckered back in about a year and a half later. So,
man,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's interesting. Like, so what brought you back? Like,
yeah,
once you kind of stepped away, then what was it that drew you back in?
I was scared I was going to die at Armageddon.
Yeah,
that was
God killed everyone.
Gets you every time.
So that was I mean. Yeah, I remember even like making out, I did like date a couple quote worldly girls, is what we call non-Jehovah's Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would never like go more than kissing with them. They would just kind of be like, you want to go further? I'm like, no, I want to keep the door open so I can get back in the Jehovah's Witnesses. But,
I get that.
So yeah.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, I want to talk about disfellowshipping, leaving the faith a little more, and as well as we'll get into the film adaptation of Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk with our special guest tonight, Tony Duchesne. We'll be right back after this quick break. You're listening to Sarah Talk.
I was feeling so alone.
I'm glad I asked for help. Whatever it is, ask for help.
If you're thinking about suicide or need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386.
Are you ready for your first card? As I look at the set I placed down for you, I see an interesting things rising. Some of it has to deal with love and money and changes, and hopefully they're going to be for the better. Now, your first card represents your situation, maybe some problems you've been having, maybe a little bit about yourself. Your first card is sorrow. This card is letting us know that there is some type of disruption in your life. Not that it's a big deal, but this card is giving off a strange vibe of anxiety. Actually, this card is warm in my hand. Oh, now caller, if you listen here, I'm seeing in the cards, yes, the 45 of mangoes. The 45 of mangoes card says you're going to go on to Patreon and subscribe, because there is nothing better than giving when receiving. What will you ask me? Find out now, and I see for you. Call me now for a free tarot reading.
Sarah Talk is made possible by our patrons. We love our patrons. If you're not a Sarah Talk patron, you're missing out.
We should do a parody show for bathroom bills at the dog park. Like dogs fighting over which dog gets to pee where.
Or the owners.
Yeah.
I feel uncomfortable that my dog has to shit on the transgendered lawn. Fuck that.
Our Patreon fans get access to special patrons-only content, like this nearly 2-hour-long bonus episode where we break down Texas Senate Bill 6, the bathroom bill, with our special guest, Jake Vahaba.
My dog hunches over and takes a big runny shit. It's gonna do it with other straight shit dogs. Which is the argument I hear.
Yes,
so.
yes, exactly what
My
I
dog knows what it is. And it may fuck other men dogs sometimes, and pillows and shit, my kid. But I'm not having my dog shit next to other transgendered hump dogs.
Not only do our patrons get access to all previous patron-only specials for less than the price of a tall whatever Starbucks tries to pass off as a coffee, you'll get an ad-free version of the show, which often includes outtakes and extended segments. And of course, we'll give you a special shout-out on the show. Become a patron now for as little as $1 per episode. Go to patreon.com/SarahTalk today. That's patreon.com/SarahTalk.
Want to join the conversation or tell Sarah she's wrong? Email producer@SarahTalk.com or call 224-40-SARAH. That's 224-407-2724. Now, more Sarah Talk.
Hey, welcome back to Sarah Talk.
Live Saturday night.
We are back with our special guest, Tony Duchesne, author, screenwriter, apostate.
Oh, I got to put that in my bio now.
You totally do.
Yeah, good one.
Hey, is your picture in a do not enter binder at the local Kingdom Hall?
I don't know. I know my publisher card, because they keep your publisher card.
Yeah.
So I was never just fellowship. I just faded out.
Me
And
too.
Oh, rock on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
The
feel like
fader.
that would be like, I don't know, like royalty in the XJW community if you've got your name in the
do not enter binder
book. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I faded out when the book came out, my Jehovah's Witnesses relatives, they all cut me off completely.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I know there was some back talk where it was just like, you got an apostate for a relative, So it was just like, all right, can't you guys just, I'm like, who do I got to fuck to get DF'd around here? I'm like, God damn it. It's like, just announce the fucking thing. I'm already in it. Let's do it.
There's no turning back now.
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of punishments, one of the best moments in this story, in my opinion, is when Gabe gets disfellowshipped. And again, like I'm kind of... I'll come back to that. But while he's being shunned, right? His all his witness friends are shunning him. He starts frequenting the library and bookstores and like just pours himself into literature, and becomes kind of a bit of a poet himself. And I love this obviously because like knowledge is the anti-venom to religion, and literature is like literally the doorway to that universe of knowledge. So please, everyone, read as much as you can, and please read your Bibles too, because there's lots of stuff your faith leaders aren't telling you that's in it. But there's some pretty crazy shit in there. But anyway, so like this exposure to literature is a real key moment in Gabe's journey, and you've kind of talked about this. That is very much a whole lot of Tony in that part of the story. Where he comes across the book Crisis of Conscience, which is a very real, very controversial book. Was that book part of your journey? Was discovering that particular like manifesto?
That actually, I read that about 6 years after I left. I was still married to a Jehovah's Witness, so I essentially told her I'm done.
Oh.
And then she kind of flipped out, and then she's like, "Well, can you not tell anybody because my family will freak out?" And I'm like, yeah. And then like kind of the rest of our marriage went dead for 9 years after that. But I just kind of stayed on the down low. So I read Crisis of Conscience about 6 years after I'd made the decision to leave. And I was blown away. I mean, I was crying when I read that book. It just blew my mind. So that's when it came into my peripheral. The books I was reading where it's very similar to I was reading all everything I got my hands on. James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room was the first book I read where I went, oh my God, this just spoke to me. What's next? So that's how I kind of went down that rabbit hole of finding authors, and just I'm sitting at the library for hours on end. That's when I was a little older, and I just didn't go to the Kingdom Hall. Instead, I went to the library after work and just sat there for 3 hours. And yeah, it saved my life, I believe. I mean, I was grieving another friend of mine who was disfellowship, killed himself. So I was grieving his suicide and I was trying to figure it out in the congregation, and they were just like, "You can't grieve that." And I'm like, "What?" And then I was just like, "All right, I gotta just sit in the library." So.
But it wasn't.
Did I veer from your question?
No. And it wasn't just if I know my Tony Duchesne correctly, it wasn't just the literature either, right? Like you got into like college radio, and there was a musical thing that kind of spoke to you too. Oh,
music saved my life when I was younger. Yeah, because when I was a kid, they have a station called KPFA out here in the Bay Area in Berkeley. And there was a radio show called Maximum Rock and Roll, which was just all punk rock. And it came on at 9:00 on Tuesday night, and it was after Bible study. So I would come home and then I would turn on my radio and just put on my headphones. And I'd get an hour of hardcore punk rock, and it was just like nothing I'd ever heard before. And the way it was just so angry, I was just like, oh my God, this is what I feel inside. I connect to this. So yeah, then we would buy records without even knowing what was in them, because it's just like we go to the record shop and just try to find punk stuff, and then we make tapes for each other. And some of those tapes, I don't know if you remember this, Becca. They had the Kingdom Melodies cassette.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we found out how to tape.
Yep.
We would record over it. Yeah. So it had like Suicidal Tendencies on there, and all
Yep.
this, all these other bands. And it looked there. My parents were just like, well, look at him. Well, praise Jehovah.
Oh my God.
It's just like,
so good.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
I saw your mommy, and your mommy's dead. I'm like, yeah. I mean, oh yeah.
I gotta tell you, this is hilarious to me because as you was talking about this, I just remembered being like 17, 18 years old, and there was a group of witnesses that I hung out with, and we would go to the punk rock shows, like the underground clubs that you could get at any all age shows on like Friday nights or whatever. And the whole group of us would just go to these shows, and we wouldn't tell anybody. We would, we're gonna go play pool, or we're gonna go whatever. And we would go to these punk rock shows, and I actually had a witness friend who was in a punk rock band, and we would go see him and his bandmates play, and they were all witnesses. And this is the funniest thing though, because it was very angry and loud, like punk rock music, but it can just go to these grungy, dirty places. A bunch of witness kids, but we would never ever tell anybody the truth about what we were actually doing.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back to the kind of the discipline conversation, and in the book you include a very informational kind of section that breaks down the different types of sins in the Jehovah's Witness community, and the ways that JWs are disciplined, which will, I think, for a lot of readers be very eye-opening. And we've talked about, on the show, disfellowshipping in some other contexts, in the shaming and shunning culture. But in the book, you really drove home an immediate change in Gabe's life to this stark isolation. And I mean, even before seeing the film adaptation, just reading the book, I could feel the color of the lighting change from warm to cool as I was reading it. Oh, it was, dude, goosebumps. It really spoke to me. Do you want to speak to that isolation and separation for a moment?
Yeah, because that would be more on Gabe the character,
right?
Since I didn't go through that exactly at that age, and I knew if I did, I probably would have slit my wrist, because it was just they just take everything from you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of just diving into his head, and diving into at that point he's just our hero. He's lost everything, and then he has his two non-Jehovah's Witness relatives that he can hang out with, the cousin and Uncle Jeff, who kind of guide him in his journey, but they do it in kind of a weird, fucked up way where they're kind of stupid too. I hope that came across. I don't know if it did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
So, putting him in isolation was great, because then I just had him in the book and in the film go to the library at school, and then the librarian was
the best character in the book. The librarian. Oh, best character.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love her. Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's the definite character thing that's going on there, but it really does speak to a very real, true thing that happens in the church that people have to deal with. That's just really sad and disgusting, and all the reasons why I'm an anti-theist, just taking people's families away. So when you left, and you kind of mentioned your marital relationship, but like, did you lose all of your closest friends when you left?
No, I did it in such a funky way. I mean, the elders kind of never knew what to do with me, because when I came back, I had done all this college radio, and I'd kind of been in the music scene and around a lot of bands that they had no reference to. If it wasn't Ozzy Osbourne, then they didn't understand that it was not satanic, you know. So I was kind of so I didn't lose the original question. I didn't really lose friends. I got a lot of the Jehovah's Witnesses who were a little bit more on the outs, who would still hang out with me, but they weren't totally on the outs. They were still going to the Kingdom Hall and stuff. But they would. I had access to get into shows and also see films with directors and stuff. So they were pretty much up my ass as the entertainment director. I guess I was kind of the entertainment director even when I was a kid, taking people to show them stuff. So yeah, there was people that still hung around, but I started getting new friends. I was doing other things and doing some stand-up comedy and stuff. So
yeah. So Russell here in the Facebook chat,
who's my brother,
says
shout out to the brother
who is also out.
He's
Oh, right on. Oh, cool.
He says, I remember going to punk rock concerts back in high school and seeing other witnesses and making eye contact and like quickly turning away because of the shame, and then later in going and talking with them and becoming allies at future shows.
Yeah.
That rules.
Yeah.
Right on.
It was a very common thing where we grew up. Like, that was just what you did. And we had a lot of the boys mainly, they were skaters. And then we had this skate park that would do punk rock shows. So it was just a really weird, that was the high schoolers. And then once you got out of high school, you went to the I forget the name of the club, but it was this club that you could get into if you're 18.
Oh yeah.
But
I was dying to turn 18 to get into some of those clubs.
Yeah.
Then in San Francisco, all the 21 clubs, man, the minute I turned 21, it was just everything opened up.
Oh yeah. Yep. So, tell us about, if it's okay. How are your parents? Are they still in? Did they have any adverse reactions to you writing this book? What was that like?
It was intriguing. So yeah, my dad left before I did, and then my mom is she still believes enough where she goes to the memorial every year, but she's kind of out. So when the book was about to get published, I gave a copy to my mom because I was actually very scared for her to read it, because a lot of it was true. And then, so that was a very nervous night, because the book was going to come out in about 3 months, and she read it. And when I saw her after she read it, she just almost had tears in her eyes, and she's just like, "You told the truth. It was beautiful." That was what she said, and I was like,
so
"Oh,
good.
wow."
Wow.
And then I didn't. Yeah, so that I was just like, oh, relief. And then I didn't let my dad read it until it was published. I knew he'd be fine.
Yeah. I thought of this, just a weird blip. I know we're gonna talk about the film, but speaking of your dad, and I almost didn't catch it when we watched the film at the end, or not at the end, but when Gabe gets reinstated, and his dad is going into the elders' room after him, and he's got that book, the Crisis of Conscience, in his hand. Was that like an intentional Easter egg, or because I was like, oh my gosh, or was that like kind of just a silent explanation of what had been going on with his dad? Because we know there was a lot of things going on with his dad that weren't really explained in the film.
Yeah, that was intentional for the story, because essentially he was going in. I think even in the after he hugs Gabe, he goes to put his hand out to the elder to shake the elder's hand, and the elder doesn't shake his hand. So that was all written in the script.
Yeah.
And it was to show that I want to call them by the actors by their real name. It was to show that Alan was questioning and was having issues, and then as we got toward the very end, when the last scene with Dad and Gabe, when writing it, I was hoping to convey when he kicked them out that part of it was, this is for you too, and because it was trying to frame a, because in the film you got to just stay so on top of the hero, you can't veer too much. But because we shot a lot of other stuff with Peter, and the flashbacks of Peter as a kid getting the shit beaten out of him with a spoon and all that stuff, and those didn't make the final cut. I was like, oh my god, those scenes were so good, but I understand why they didn't make it. But,
you need to release deleted film, deleted scenes.
Right.
Well, I think that's coming out. I think there's going to be a DVD and Blu-ray, and I did the DVD commentary for it. We recorded that a few months ago.
Nice.
And then
I gotta see that now.
Yeah, and then we got the and they sent over some deleted scenes, and I was like, oh, cool. And I'm looking forward to that.
Amazing.
So the book came out in 2010. The film came out almost exactly a year ago. So there was kind of a gap between the two. And I imagine when the film, when you got into that and the film released, it just sent your life on a whirlwind again. What has the last year been like for you?
Oh wow. I guess it's been cool. I haven't thought about it as any different. Just plugging away, working on stuff, and I mean, what happened a year ago was it was shown at film festivals, so that was the first time I'd seen rough cuts. So the first time I saw the final cut was a year ago, and then it was finally released and theatrically in LA in February, and then it came out I think after that on Amazon. So it did some festivals, and then it came out. Yeah.
How stoked were you to have Eric Stoltz direct your story?
It was an amazing experience, because I just found out that he was reading the book, and I was just like, well, it doesn't get any better,
right?
Just like the drug dealer in Pulp Fiction's reading my book.
Yes.
And then that was it. I'm just like, I'm done. I'm out. Mic drop. And then then he brought me in. He said, he was like, let's do this. He wanted me to write the screenplay all the way through, because he didn't want the tone and the voice to change in any way at all. They wanted to make sure to really keep it. And I was so lucky to work with him, because Eric got the story on every single level. And it was amazing. And I was on set every day and just got to sit behind the monitor with him as we went through those grueling days. And it was beautiful.
Yeah. And the cast is amazing. You got a great cast.
Oh, they are so. Yeah, I didn't have it. The only person they asked me an opinion on was Kit, who plays Kian in the movie. I didn't meet anybody until the first cast reading, and I didn't even know that Sasha was playing Gabe. I saw a tape of him, and the minute I saw his face, I went, "Oh shit, that's Gabe. That better be Gabe. That's got to be Gabe." I was like freaking out. I'm like, if that's not Gabe, I'm going to talk to them, And then I got they give you a sheet of who's at the crew reading or whatever. It said Sasha filming Gabe, and I went, oh, thank God, I hadn't even met him yet. So
that's got to be hard though, too. Like, this is my baby, and somebody else is making all the decisions about like who's going to be who. I think that would be tough.
Yeah. Well, what was good is it stayed very indie, and I had been working with Eric on and off for about a year, because I would send him the treatment, and then he'd go, all right, go with that, and then I went through some rewrites on the scripts with him. He had great notes, and so we had gone back and forth and did a lot of talking on everything that I knew he knew. He just got it, and it didn't worry me. I stayed completely out of the way, because it's it was his baby at that point.
Right.
And I knew I was giving my baby to somebody who was going to take very good care of it. And he did. So
yeah. Well, you talk about the screenwriting process. I'm not sure that, like, God, if I were an author, I don't know that I could, like, treat my own screenplay like when you're adapting novels into film. Like when I consider the differences between the book and the film, obviously we can't make a 6-hour film, Tony. You have to cut some things down, like, and I feel like, God, that would be just so fucking hard to decide, like, okay, because to me, I feel like every detail would be just so damn important. No, you can't take that out. That has to be in there. Like, you know what I mean? But I don't do any of this for a living, so maybe I'm way off base. But was that difficult? Trying to navigate what you knew absolutely needed to stay in, and what kind of details could be taken out or treated differently.
Yeah, it was a huge learning experience. Before Eric got it, I worked with another production company for a year, Hunting Lane Films, and they were trying to package it as a TV show.
Oh.
And so I had worked on that with their producer for a year. So, and the TV show that they wanted to veer towards was the adults. So they were saying, let's see if we can pull the adults out of this and do something with that. So I'd already worked on an adaptation of sorts before it got to Eric, and then when it got to Eric, and he's like, let's stay with the book, let's stay right on top of the book, and I'm all, fuck yeah, And then at that point, I'd already kind of seen a lot of storytelling veer, even though I felt it was. We were going in a good direction. I saw the story veer into something else, and then when I got to Eric, then it came back to staying right on top of the book. And I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Correctly. Okay. Yeah. I got to your question. I think sometimes I mouth off, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, what was the question?
Well, now I'm off in somewhere else now too, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, what would this feel like as a TV series? Like,
right.
Now my mind is in other places.
No. Well, I'm going to say...
yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad that Eric was insistent that you stayed on top of the book, because that was the best decision, because that book is kick-ass, and I love it. That's all I'm going to say. Go on. What were you going to say now, Tony? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I'm just absorbing. I'm soaking in all the love.
All right, I have do you have any other questions? I have one final question.
I have a million questions, but that's okay. We only have so much time.
Rein it in, fangirl. So one of the things that I considered when reading this story, and funny story actually. So my boss isn't listening right now, right? So I tend to take these books when we do these sorts of interviews to work with me, because I work a third shift job, and it's not exactly real busy all the time. And so
you're entitled to a lunch break.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right. But so also there I am, like, in my office with books on my desk, and we have some folks who work with us who identify with the J and the W.
Oh,
and
I didn't know
we
this.
Don't talk. Like, I used to have a friend at work that we talked to politics and religion. It, like, basically like what we do here on the show. We would, like, stand in the break room and do that, right? But he doesn't work there anymore, so I don't do that anymore, and it's probably best for my career. But so here's this book on my desk, right? And one night, the particular employee, one of the particular employees that came was in the office, and was like, "Oh, what are you reading?" Oh, don't ask me that. Don't ask me that. So, we kind of had a little conversation about it, and there was another employee there with us who said some, like, disparaging things about, like, oh, when they knock on my door or whatever, right? You know how people sometimes respond with, like, oh, fuck those people, I'll show up to the door naked or whatever, right?
Right.
When they knock on your door, how does Tony respond? And I think the really important question here, like, what do you want your audience to understand about the people on the other side of that door?
Well, first, what's weird? I've never had a knock on my door.
Really?
Since I left.
They know, Tony. They know.
Wait, what year did you leave, out of curiosity?
Actually, I officially kind of left when I told my ex-wife in 99.
Okay.
But I had pretty much, kind of mentally left probably
way before
6 years
that.
earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
But I always kind of, like, when I lived in San Francisco, I always kind of lived in kind of higher crime areas. Like, even where I'm staying now, I'm in the Tenderloin. So the Jehovah's Witnesses don't kind of come in this area. And then where I stay when I'm in LA is kind of East Hollywood, and I've seen them a couple times, but I'm kind of in this Latino part of town, so they're all Spanish. They just look at me like, nope, he's not with us.
No gringos for us.
No,
yeah, exactly.
Lucky.
And then, but yet a great question. What I wanted people to take away from it, and this was an intent from the very start, was to have empathy for the people behind the Jehovah's Witnesses coming, because what helped me when I was leaving was remembering the gracious people. It wasn't the people who yelled or the people who were trying to lecture me. It was the people who were like even I'd had, like when you had to do like the flag salute and all that crap, a lot of teachers would give you shit over it for years, especially back in the 80s, Now I think they would be like, oh, got to be careful, lawsuit. But but there were teachers that were gracious, and I remember one teacher said, "Oh, you know what, Tony? We just won't salute the flag this year," and that just relieved me. And I was like, wait a second, I'm getting something that's completely different than what I usually get, and that, like, I believe that was part of opening the door for me, was that teacher back then. And so if somebody reads the book, they're going to know what it's like for a kid or whoever's knocking on your door, that there's a lot of conflict usually going on within them. And there's a lot of the time they kind of don't want to be there. They're kind of, there's a lot of conflict where it's just like, don't be too nice, where they, you join. But it's just, at the same time, it's just like, what are our motivations, for what we do? And people get in fucked up situations, and sometimes we don't know. Sometimes they're born into it, like I was. Sometimes tragedy happens and they're kind of preyed upon. And it's just like, that's a bummer to see. But at the same time, I don't hold any resentment I have toward the belief system, which is other bullshit. But I don't hold that against someone I just meet. I'll be nice.
Yeah.
I used to actually go up to them when they were in the streets, and I would say, "Oh, hi, I used to do what you do." And then, but I got so much animosity because they're like, "Wait, you're not doing it anymore?" And I'm like, "No." And I'm just like, "But I just wanted to say hi." And they were just like, "Ah," and I'm like, I guess I'm not saying hi anymore.
Yeah, that's rough. We tend to be critical of religion on the show, and I really do try to use this filter, and we'll play, Jim Baker clips and have a good laugh at some of the idiots in religion, But like you said, they're let's criticize the bad ideas, and remember that the people are still people, right? They're just humans like the rest of us that are going through shit just like the rest of us. And their shit's a little bit different than ours, but at the end, there's a lot of just basic human things that we can all connect with.
Yeah, exactly. And now I don't tell them, if I ever was one. I'm just
I bet.
It's just a smile now. That's it. Well, actually, I did photobomb the Jehovah's Witness booth.
Nice.
At the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books is a huge book festival, and people buy booths, mostly booksellers and stuff. But the Jehovah's Witnesses buy a booth there. So I went up and pretended.
Too, man.
Exactly. I pretended I was interested, and then I had a friend. I had my arms around an elder, and then my friend took a photo, and then I felt really dirty. I had a hazmat suit on after that.
We were at the St. Louis airport coming home, and they had a table set up, and I'm walking through the airport.
It was a free speech kiosk, they call it.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm walking through the airport, like so tempted. If my children weren't with me, I would have been yelling, "Don't talk to those Jehovah's Witnesses. They protect pedophiles."
I know.
Oh, it's just so crazy. But
it's gross to see. Yeah.
There was a picture going around in a couple of the XJW groups that I'm in on Facebook, and I don't know if it was photoshopped or not, but it was a picture of their cart that they've got set up, and there was a dog peeing on it.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming up on our time here, and we thank you so much. You've been very generous with your time.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, where can we send folks to find more about you, find more about your work, get the book, get the movie, all of that stuff?
TonyDuchesne.com has a bunch of stuff on there, but it's so outdated. But yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, look up Eric Stoltz because he's way more famous than I am, and then they can find the film, and then the book is the same title, Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk. Yeah,
so great.
Dan says in chat that Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk is available to stream on Amazon Prime. I just added it to my watch list. Is what he said. So
awesome.
Oh, sweet.
So there you go.
Go to
Amazon
on Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got it on Google Play.
I think we did it on Google Play, but yeah.
Okay,
Google it.
cool.
Google it and you'll find it.
Cool. Tony, thank you again so much for coming on the show and talking with us.
Hey, it was a blast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, man. We love you.
Okay, love you too.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Tony Duchesne, author and screenwriter of Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk. The book is available from fine booksellers, and the movie can be streamed on various platforms. Of course, we will link all of this stuff in the show notes like we always do. This episode 111. And if you buy the book through our link, we are partnered with IndieBound, is an independent bookseller network. If you purchase the book through our link, it will help support our show as well. So please do that. That would be awesome. We're going to take another quick break here. We have so much more show left. We're just getting started. But God, that was so good.
It was amazing.
Seriously, go buy this fucking book. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break. When we come back, I have a gift for Becca.
Oh, that's right.
You forgot all about it.
Oh, wow. I was fangirling over here. I just completely forgot. I'm obsessed.
We'll catch up on some news, and we'll talk about our trip to Illinois. We've got some listener mail.
Ooh,
I'm excited for that.
I like listener mail.
We'll do all of that and more when we come back. You're listening to Sarah Talk.
One in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians and everyone else to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
In today's health-conscious society, you have many beverage choices. But do you know what's in all of them? So much sugar, sodium, and things you can't even pronounce. Dihydrogen monoxide. What's that? Sometimes you wish you just had a simple, more elegant solution for your beverage needs. Introducing H2O, the first ever chemical-free thirst quencher. H2O is simple, simply composed of 3 portions of 2 elements, hydrogen and oxygen. H2O means chemical-free, unlike water, which is filled with all sorts of shit. When we tested H2O, we found traces of no other elements. So pure, the bottle may as well be fucking empty, with all the same nutritional content as a breath of cool mountain air. First widely featured on Goop.com, actress Gwyneth Paltrow revealed that she exclusively uses H2O for her vaginal steaming process. After all, why use water when you can steam it with H2O? So now we invite you to run out to your local garden hose and drink that shit. Remember, it's not water, it's H2O.
H2O bottled by Flint Bottling Company in Flint, Michigan. Product not actually endorsed by Goop or Gwyneth Paltrow. Please do not use H2O for vaginal steaming, or better yet, please do not steam your vagina. H2O is actually just water. Water is a set of molecular compounds. It's a chemical. Everything is a chemical.
Want to join the conversation or tell Sarah she's wrong? Email producer@SarahTalk.com or call 224-40-SARAH. That's 224-407-2724. Now, more Sarah Talk.
All right, welcome back to Sarah Talk.
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah. God, what a great show tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Tony. Fucking awesome.
I'm going to have a smile on my face all night.
Yeah.
That was such an awesome interview.
Yeah. So good. Okay, so before we get into the news topics tonight, I want you to open your gift.
Okay.
Okay.
What is it?
Well, and I hope you like it.
I hope so too.
Well, because I had to choose. There were two different ones, and I had to pick.
I know for a fact. Hold on. These came in the mail. 2 separate packages. So I know you ordered both of them. I just don't know what they are. Oh my God. Is this for me to attack you? Oh, you bitch.
So they are unicorn poppers.
Oh my God.
They shoot rainbow balls. Oh, that one didn't go.
Hold on. You couldn't even open it for me. Yours is fully loaded, and now
Here, I gotta get the rest
rude.
of
my freaking twat waffle.
Well, there's already one loaded up there. Oh, there you go. Shit. It really fires across the room. Why did I buy this?
Because you love me and you want me to abuse you. Hey! Now I got an extra one.
Okay, that was fun.
I still have balls. I still have rainbow
So do
balls.
I. Okay, that was fun. God damn it. They don't hurt, and yet I flinch because they're flying at you at 100 miles an hour.
Oh, this is so cool. Check it out. It's our unicorn. Oh my God. You're out of control.
Well, we just needed more things to play with in the studio, and,
Yeah, I know.
All right.
God.
There you go.
Crazy.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, we have to have those.
You're out of control. They're it's like blowjob Betty over here. They're like, Jesus.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me start this segment by saying,
dun, 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 dun.
ain't nobody fucking care about the royal wedding. And if... Why would I give a fuck about a bunch of people I don't know on the other side of the fucking world getting married? I don't know these people. I ain't never gonna see these people. I don't care. I don't care. Here's the thing. If you got excited for the royal wedding today, I want you to consider this. Would you have been as, excited to watch one of Trump's children get married?
Ew.
The king of the United States of America. The king of the United States of America's child get married? No! What? I don't care! Why does anyone care? Okay, that's enough.
You've set off the drinkle-meter.
All right, enjoy that, Dan.
Bottoms up.
Okay, so no, in all seriousness now, before we get into the news, I do want to mention, and we're not going to talk about it at great length, but I do want to mention the shooting yesterday at Santa Fe High School in Texas. And look, I know that you don't want to hear me just repeating all of the same shit we talk about every month when one of these things happens.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when are we going to start listening to our children who would very simply like to just go to school and not worried about getting shot?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've got more or if that's your thing, but I was watching some footage of these kids. It made me sick. Right as this is, they're still there. It's live on the news, and they're like dragging these kids over. And I know it happened after Parkland, and fine. But what really struck me was, it was one girl in particular. They asked her, were you surprised that this was happening at your school? And she said, no. She says, I was scared.
Yeah. I was wondering when this would happen.
It's been happening everywhere. So no, I wasn't surprised. I was scared.
That makes my gut just...
Like, this is what our kids go through every single fucking day that they go to school. It's just disgusting that nobody can be bothered to make better laws to protect our kids. When you look around the world, and Japan has reasonable, sensible gun laws, and guess how many mass shootings and schools are being... Like, no. This is an epidemic in America, and it needs to stop. All right.
So maybe we'll get into this again more next week. Maybe not. I don't know. But I just wanted to say, like, Texas, for as much shit as we give you for being a garbage state, you don't deserve any of this. You don't deserve the loss of life and injury. You don't deserve the empty platitudes about thoughts and prayers, which do fucking nothing to make your school any safer. And you don't deserve the lip service you're getting from politicians. You don't deserve inaction. So we love you, and our hearts go out to you. But more than that, and I'm going to speak for everyone on the show, if that's all right, we will be voting. And we will be voting for leaders at every level who will actually do something to fucking address this. Okay. We went to Illinois.
Illinois. What's their state song?
I don't know.
Down in the cornfield. I'm kidding. Not really, but go on.
And the Texas song is Going Down to Texas.
Got my banjo and my Bible.
Okay, so we went back to Illinois for a nephew's wedding, and it was really great.
It was.
We had a great time.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
Everybody was super awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful wedding.
Yeah, it was on the lake.
Beautiful day.
And we have a history in our family of having
horrible
outdoor
weddings. I've heard.
Yes.
I've heard there's always been an incident.
Outdoor weddings do not fare well in my family.
Nothing really happened here. There was a lost wallet for like a half hour. It was missing or something. But it was found.
While I tell the story of passing out at my sister's wedding, Stacy, if you're still in the live stream here, remind me all the other stories that I was supposed to tell you, because I've forgotten at this point. But I know there were a couple. So when my sister got married, whose son was getting married that we went back for, when my sister got married, she got married in the middle of June on a deck behind my parents' house. And it was blistering hot.
Yeah, because it's summertime.
Right. And that's just Illinois. That's not like surface of the sun, Florida, right?
No.
This is Illinois.
Yeah.
And so I was a wee young lad at the time. and so I'm standing up there with all the guys, and they're all passing a hanky back and forth. Hot as fuck. Passing the hanky around, wiping their foreheads off. Pass the sweaty hanky onto the next person.
Oh, God.
I know.
That's disgusting. Didn't their cummerbund come with a matching hanky?
No, but let me tell you what happens when they don't pass you the hanky.
Oh.
I passed out at my sister's wedding. And there's like the house and the garage and the deck in between. And I was standing like on the side next to the garage. And like, I'm going to knock my drink over. I'm standing up. And the next thing I know, like, I hit the wall and then I hit the deck. Like,
now, how old were you?
Little.
We were like, what, 7 maybe?
I don't know.
Maybe a little more than that?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I was real young.
Okay, Stacy says the Walker incident.
Oh, the Walker incident, yes. So, same sister. God, it always seems to be that same sister. Anyway. So, when I was a baby, and I mean a baby.
In a Walker baby.
We lived in a log cabin for the first 7 years of my life. Some of you, for this, will be a repeat. The first 7 years of my life, I lived in a log cabin out in the middle of nowhere, Illinois, that my parents built. And it was the coolest house ever. Like, just the fucking coolest house. And if I went back in it now, I would probably be like, wow, this is a lot smaller than I remember. Because
you were 7 when you left
it. I was a kid,
it, so.
right? But I was so mad that we left that house. Anyway, still hanging on to that a little guilt. Anyway, so when you walk in, there was a staircase that went up the living room wall to a catwalk across the main living room, and on either end of the catwalk was a sister's bedroom. Right, so one sister on either side.
Where was your bedroom?
And mine was downstairs next to my parents' bedroom.
Okay.
So, so this catwalk, so huge vaulted ceiling with this catwalk. Oh, it's great. So under the staircase that went up was a staircase that went down to the basement. And in the basement, I spent hours just roller skating in circles, listening to records. Like that's my memory of that, of the basement, my time in that house. Like I spent a lot of time playing. That was like my playroom,
And then there was this one memory.
And then on the other side, hold on, I'm painting the picture.
Oh my God!
So on the other side of the stairs, the one room I played in, the other side was the laundry, and we canned, all the vegetables and stuff that we grew in the garden. So it was like storage. So one particular day, and you may remember better than I, because she tried to defend herself on Facebook about what she was doing at the time.
I have no idea.
She said she was going to help mom or something. I don't know. But she left the door to the stairs into the basement open. And I, in my walker, went down the stairs. Yes, Stacy, that's the sister we're talking about. So it's listen, it's a wonder that I'm here right now.
Oh my God, get off of it. You know what? My little brother, Russell.
Is this a story about when you stepped on his face?
Will never let me live it down. And let me tell you something. Babies bounce. They're resilient. So it shouldn't matter.
Okay, so anyway, all I wanted to say about our time back in Illinois was how good it was, and we talked about it on the show because I try to be transparent. I try to be very, honest with what I'm feeling, and because I want you guys to understand, what it's like dealing with gender dysphoria and anxiety and depression and all of the things that goes on. Yeah. So I try to be as raw and honest as possible, but also I try to not go into too much detail either. Right. And I try to be respectful if I can. So, you build up this stuff, and this is what anxiety does. You build up in your mind the worst case scenario, and that's that is a mechanism that that kind of protects you. But that if you've already worked out the worst case scenario, whatever actually happens is going to be better. And so then you're not looking at disappointment. Then you're not looking at you've already worried about the worst problems, and 99 times out of 100 that doesn't happen. And so sure enough, I built up some worry about Sarah had never been back to Illinois, and I don't see my family that often, but even my immediate family, I kind of know where they stand. It's the extended family, aunts and uncles, and
people that you don't really interact with.
Yeah, that I don't even we're friends on Facebook or whatever, but we don't interact.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm from a town of 1,400 people. Everybody in that town grew up I grew up with all of them.
Yeah.
It's really like a big extended family in a small town like that. And so those people, right, and not knowing what that's going to be like. And so you just build up this thing in your mind, and it festers, and and then we went, and it was fine.
All that worry for nothing, which is
part of
the course.
Yeah, that's part, but that's part of it. That's just kind of how it works. So yeah, Stacy gets it. Stacy's no one understand. Yep. Stacy, I know that you deal with a lot of this too, and I'm right there with you, girl. Right there with you. How the fuck did I survive? I have no idea. The falls down the stairs, I think she's talking about. Also, while we were there, we met up with John and Logan from the Wayward Willis podcast. I'm so glad that Logan got to got to be
that was
there.
super
that
awesome.
was great. Yeah, they were so much fun.
Super excited to do that.
And because we were all like fan peopling with each other, I don't want to be gender stereotypical. We were all fan peopling with each other, and like John had his flat Jesus that we forgot to take pictures with and of. It was really good too. It was like zombie Jesus.
It was awesome.
Oh, it was so good.
John, you need to send us a picture or post it.
Just a selfie or something.
Tweet it to us or something, please.
Yes. And you had a gift for them.
I did. I created some little Wayward Willis sheep out of polymer clay and baked them for them and glazed them.
They were super cute.
So they were listening. One of them was listening to our podcast. The other one had a microphone. It was doing their podcast. It was cute.
You have to post a picture in the
put
group.
a picture up there.
Yes. So that was our trip to Illinois.
Yeah, it was really cool.
I did share a story in the group and
the airport girl or the airplane.
So Frontier. We have so much to talk about. I'm wasting all of my time talking about this fucking trip. Okay. So we flew Frontier because it's cheap, and we realized that you don't get anything with that, right? It's a seat on a plane,
and they assign it. Unless you pay extra.
So we were cool with like, okay, we're not even bringing on carry-ons. Like we're not going to check luggage. We're not bringing carry-ons. We're going to bring our personal items, and so everybody gets a backpack, and that's how we traveled, and it was great.
And
so
I
we
will
don't have to pay
say,
extra.
Side note, the last time, and it's been a year since we've flown. But the last time that we flew Frontier, I was allowed to pick seats when I checked in, even though I didn't pay extra. Now,
but this time,
between last year and this year, when you sign in, if you don't pay extra, you are automatically assigned.
So, we, traveling with our 2 children, are a party of 4. So, we were assigned seats B, C, D, and E, which are the aisle and the middle on both sides.
And there's 6 seats across, so 3 on the aisle
3
and
and
then
3.
3.
And it turns out
airline
regulations require that an infant seat
with
be
a
on
car seat.
Yeah, car seat. Yeah, that's what I mean. Be on the window seat
so that it doesn't obstruct anyone's access to the aisle. Makes sense. Perfect sense.
Right. But then, like, shouldn't I be able to tell the system that when I'm booking my flight? Like, hey, yes, and we paid for the seat. It's not like, you know.
And also, I paid for the seat, and they ask me, is it child under 18 or whatever, how old?
Yeah.
So they knew I had a 2-year-old. There should have been like a box.
A checkbox that
says, is this child in a car seat?
Right.
And then, okay, so it auto assigns me to a window. But no.
I've done enough like simple programming to know that
It's
that would
possible.
be real fucking easy to
Yeah.
do. Okay. So anyway, on the flight home to Illinois, we didn't have a lot of problems. Like there was,
leaving.
They told us like, hey, that sucks, but you're gonna have to go ask a person who's in a window seat if they mind moving, and if they say no, I don't want to move, then you're gonna have to check the baby's seat, and she's gonna have to ride in a regular seat, which like. Okay, fine, but you're gonna have to deal with my heathen child that like will not fucking sit still and is climbing all over the place. And you want her to sit in her seat with a seatbelt on? You let me put that car seat in the window.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the way to on the flight to St. Louis, no problem. On the way home to Florida, however, big fucking problem. So there was like some confusion with the person working at the gate. She didn't even was she the one that didn't even know that was a deal, that was a thing?
Oh yeah, she didn't even know that was. She was just like,
right, but she's a gate attendant.
Yeah,
she doesn't. Yeah,
right.
Okay, so then she goes onto the plane. She looks up the passengers who are in the seats A and F,
pages them
over the PA, writes their names down and gives them to us too, which is really
gave
fucking
me their
weird.
names. Weird.
But anyway, so then she discovers that one of those passengers is still on the plane from a connecting flight. So she goes onto the plane, asks said passenger, hey, here's the story. Do you mind moving? She says, no problem. So we start boarding. We get on the plane, and And I think, what did I say? I walked in and I was like, "Oh, you're the person who saved her life or something." Like, you're saving the day.
Just, you know, nice little cheeky comment.
Yeah. So she moves out of the way. I get the car seat put in and buckled up, and then like I sit down, and then she has this conversation with the people in the row behind us. Like, she moves from the seat next to me. She had the aisle seat next to me, moves to the row behind us in the aisle seat, and tells the people back in that row, "Hey, whoever's supposed to sit in this seat, when they get here, I'm just going to tell them that you're my family." And she was a young girl. So I'm
like,
kind of valley girling it up on purpose.
She was a Starbucks girl.
Yeah. So when that person comes on, I'm just going to tell them that you're my family and ask them if I can sit with you, if they'll switch with me. And I'm hearing all of this. Okay, sure enough, family of 4 comes on. And the dad gets displaced into the row next to me. And he was agreeable, fine,
he was
whatever.
Fine, yeah,
but then the whole
still.
fucking flight home, 2.5 hours, we had to listen to them have a conversation that was very much like
getting
not
to know
your
you.
family. Yeah, like it was.
Well, from my vantage point, was hilarious because there was a point where our daughters started fussing.
Yeah.
And the two of them, like the girl and the lady that was sitting next to her, were like talking about it, like making faces at each other, like, "Yeah, glad you're over here. Or you could be sitting next to that," like kind of thing.
Oh wow, I missed all that.
Oh well, that's because you
didn't tell me.
I just thought of it, but they were like, I remember like glancing over, looking at the baby because she was crying, like, "What's wrong?" And then I see them like having this conversation, very obviously about my child,
right?
And I was just like, "Oh,
yeah,"
and
bitch.
I wish I'd thought of it because I totally would have said, "Oh, enjoy your new family."
Yeah. When we got off the plane, that's what I wanted to say, like as loud as possible.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, thanks for switching. By the way, and enjoy your family," like air quotes as big as
like by looking at them, you could totally tell they weren't related.
Oh yeah,
because she was this little petite blonde American girl, and they were very obviously not.
Oh, hang on, we have a problem.
Oh no.
I need to block my gut. Here, there we go. That's better.
There's a good way to fix that.
Shut up. Okay, so we're not even in the news yet.
Holy
30
mother.
minutes into the next. Okay, so let's get on here. I want to talk. I want to take a moment and celebrate our friend Evan. We met Evan through his mother Morgan back on episode 9, and then we checked back in on them in episode 73. And for all of our episodes, if you want to go back and listen to them, if you if you want to like look it up quickly, you can go to SarahTalk.com/the-number. So like episode 9 is /09. Okay. So we followed his journey from our original chat where he was like sort of exhibiting gender variant behaviors and likes to last year when he declared to the world, "I am Evan." And here we are a year later, and we just want to wish Evan a happy Evanversary.
Love you, Evan.
We were able to FaceTime with him on Monday, and that was so much fun, which Monday was his actual, like, legit 1 year Evanversary. And so
he is such a cute.
We love you so much,
kid.
Evan. You're an awesome kid.
He
Just
really
an
is.
awesome kid. Yep. Okay, so I have some listener mail. Let's
Listener
do
mail.
listener mail.
What's the mail song from?
Here's the mail, it never fails, it makes me want to wag my tail.
Yeah, that's exactly
when
what I was
it
thinking
comes, I want to wail. Blue's Clues.
Yeah.
So I want to share some of the messages.
I'm glad that you knew that.
Yeah, I'm here for you. I want to share some messages that we've gotten from listeners recently because it reminds me that we do have listeners. And, I love hearing from people. So write us. We love you.
Russell says you need
Shut
to
up,
go
Russell.
on a diet.
Go to hell. Okay, so Emily wrote, "I love your podcast. I only started listening a few months ago, but I've nearly listened to them all. I moved out of my crazy Christian parents' house a year ago, and listening to you has helped me in my recovery big time." That's awesome. I can't believe you've gone back and listened to like the back catalog because that's a lot. And we talk about a lot of like timely topics. So like there are other like current event podcasts that I listen to, and I've gone back and listened to some of their old episodes, and I'm like, this is just so hard for me to do because that happened 6 months ago.
Well, Emily, in any case, welcome to the crazy. We love you.
Yes, but welcome to like knowledge and truth.
Right.
And
It's still crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Lamont writes, "Hello, I'm a new listener to the podcast, an instant fan. I'll be attending my first Pride in Spencer, Indiana. I'm attending another Pride in Indianapolis. I'm looking forward to seeing the differences between small town Pride and a relatively big city one. I was wondering if you have any tips for someone who has never been to any Pride before. I'm a shy person, and going to these things is stepping a little out of my comfort zone." They have drugs for that. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, Sarah.
But listen.
Don't think that's what he was talking about.
No. No, so I have serious like crowd anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to be at Polk Pride June 16th.
Yes.
Come out and see us in Lakeland, Florida. And Polk Pride is a smaller, it's still a major city in the area, but it's a much smaller event.
It's nowhere near any
and
of
then
the
we
other
went to
bigger
Orlando
ones.
Pride last year, and holy shit, that just took it all out of me. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you know the thing where you start the day with so many spoons and every interaction, everything is cost a certain number of spoons. Like, by the time we got parked, my spoons were gone. Gone.
I think that says a lot to, what you have to prepare for what you're able to dish out.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we had just gone to go and be spectators, it wouldn't have been nearly as bad because it would have been like, but we were there. We were wanting to see everything as well as do our podcast thing and talk. Like, that was the whole goal of being there, was to talk to everybody.
Right.
But then,
because we're trying to promote the show, but also we want to like hear people's stories.
So I think maybe last year we bit off way more than we could chew with
Definitely.
that. It was fun, but it was still like a lot. So
my biggest piece of advice though is bring a buddy.
Absolutely,
like if
bring
you've
two
got
buddies.
If you've got some friends that can go with you, because I tell you, that is what Becca is for me. When we go and do these things. Like, when I get overwhelmed, and you can tell, like, okay, that we need an escape route. We need to do, we need to change gears and do something different. Like, you just know can, you can sense that in me. And even if when you don't, like, I can say, like, I'm just overwhelmed right now. Like, this is too much.
Right. And if you don't have a friend that's that close that can tell, then make a plan with whoever. Like, have a code word, have a safe word.
Right.
So you can signal that, okay, I'm having a little bit of here, I need to go take a break, and go find a tree or something and take a break. But definitely scope out the area.
Yep.
What we did with Polk Pride, or what I've been doing this year for Polk Pride, is there's all kinds of shops around. Know what's around.
Yeah.
Know where you're going to eat. Make a lunch plan so that when you're ready to eat, you're not like, oh crap, because I get hangry. I don't know about anybody else, and that makes anything that I have to deal with that much worse.
Sure.
So just make sure that not every aspect of your day is planned, but know
certain points.
Yeah. Know, like, every couple hours to just stop and check yourself and make sure you're okay, and make sure you know where you need to be and what you need to be doing.
And another part of that too, I think, is like, don't think that you have to be there all day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there are events going, and you're going to want to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to go and be there first thing in the morning, and then you're going to want to, be there for the parade, and then you're going to want to stay at night for whatever the entertainment. But like, know your limitations and decide, if you can, what's my priority. Right. And for like us, we have kids that we have to get to bed at night. Right. So we're very much more of a lunchtime, like in Orlando Pride last year, like had we gone as spectators, I would have said, like, we'll get there kind of when they start, stick around, watch the parade, and leave.
Right. After the parade, go.
Lunch, parade, go.
Well, and that was like, Orlando was this all day thing. We didn't even get home until 11 o'clock at night, and we'd been there from 9 a.m.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Polk Pride is much smaller. Their window's 10 to 3, and there's really, like, you're packing up by 2 o'clock.
Right.
So, know what your limitations are. And also, I would say,
as far as crowds go, this was something that, and I hope your experience is the same. One of the things that I've said this before, like Polk Pride last year, I was very surprised, being a small town thing. Like, there were a lot of people that showed up. more people than I expected, a lot of trans representation, more trans representation than I ever would have expected.
What I was going to say was, if you have the ability to do so, I would suggest, just if you have that anxiety in crowds and you do want to stay all day, try to plan ahead so that if you don't have to go to work the following day, you can take that second day to kind of recuperate and just chill.
Self-care.
Because even though, you think, oh, even if I get home by 8 o'clock and go to bed, it takes so much out of you. You're outside all day. Make sure you hydrate, because that's another thing that happens at these outdoor events. People aren't drinking nearly enough water, and they get so excited about what's going on.
Right,
you're in the middle
Pride
of summer.
Month is in the middle of summer.
So make sure that you have a plan to keep yourself hydrated. I say 10 glasses a day. So buy a case of water if you have to. But that just self-care is really important. So
yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate you, Emily and Lamont. Thanks for writing in. I love it. Love to hear from you guys. Keep doing that. Are you ready to move on to the news? That's the song that played earlier when you were like, what is this? It's the news theme. Shit.
I have a new best friend.
All right.
Can we throw these at Donald Trump when he's doing his State of the Union address?
Sure, you do whatever you want. Okay, so this song's going to run out before my stories run out.
Oh, darn.
Okay, so I want to follow up on some recent news stories that we've talked about. Most of these were we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And so one of them is the Oklahoma bill that would allow child placing agencies to use religion to deny children homes. That bill, Senate Bill 1140, was indeed signed by Governor Mary Fallin. Governor Fallin also signed into law, we didn't talk about this one, House Bill 2177, which authorizes every government building and public school to display the 10 Commandments. Sarah Talk listeners will, of course, know this is unconstitutional, but not only that, it violates the state constitution, too. The Oklahoma Supreme Court struck down a 10 Commandments display on state capitol grounds in 2015 under Article 2, Section 5 of the state constitution, but here we are.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah. We also, this is going to be like a rapid-fire headlines until we get down the bottom. Okay, we also talked about the Kansas legislature moving forward on a bill that allows adoption agencies to refuse to place children with LGBTQ families. Kansas Governor Jeff Colyer also signed that bill yesterday. Fucking garbage.
Totally garbage. Russell was right. This news is depressing.
Well, yeah. I can't...
Hey, good news. There was a beautiful wedding this morning.
Shut up.
What do you
I need a ball return.
What are you
I
fishing
need someone.
for?
I need someone to.
No, that's not fair.
Okay. No, stop it. Another follow-up, that garbage Iowa bill that would institute a 6-week abortion ban, which was on its way to the governor's desk, was also signed into law while we were away. Governor Kim Reynolds said in a statement, quote, I understand and anticipate that this will likely be challenged in court, and that courts may even put a hold on the law until it reaches the Supreme Court. However, she says, this is bigger than just a law, which echoes the statement we made 2 weeks ago about how Republicans intend to use this strictest abortion law ever to challenge and, they hope, overturn Roe v. Wade. And sure enough, Planned Parenthood and the UCLA of Iowa have already filed a lawsuit in state court challenging the law. But wait, there's more. Tim Moore, Iowa's attorney general, has recused himself from representing the state in a lawsuit challenging the new law because he personally disagrees with this heartbeat bill. So there's something.
Wow.
Right?
I wouldn't have expected that from somebody named Moore. Any relation to Roy?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know. But...
I don't know.
Okay. We also talked about the Pulse survivor who suddenly became not gay after finding Jesus. And during that story, I mentioned that he was scheduled to be a speaker at a rally in D.C. put on by an ex-LGBTQ group that advocates for conversion therapy on college campuses. You remember that?
Gross.
Right? You'll be happy to know the Freedom March was a huge success, drawing Trump inauguration levels of supporters and onlookers. The event was attended by 36 people.
36 people. Wow.
36.
They actually broke 30. Surprising.
Okay, the next story is deeply disturbing. Republican candidate for Congress in California, Jasmina Saavedra,
this twat,
live streamed an incident on Facebook Tuesday where she confronted a transgender woman using the women's bathroom at a Los Angeles Denny's restaurant. Okay, the video is like 7 minutes long. We're gonna start and stop. We'll work our way through it. She's got her selfie stick. Get a fucking selfie stick.
Okay, this is happening right now in Denny's in Wilshire, Los Angeles. I'm trying to use the ladies' room right now. Ladies' room.
Proceeds to open the door with her camera into the women's room.
Isn't that illegal?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
There's a man here saying that he's a lady. So, a few different customers trying to use the restroom, but the guy insists he's a lady.
Are harassing me. I'm just using the restroom and
why you use the ladies' room?
My privacy one.
Well, no, you invading my privacy because I'm a woman and I deserve to use the woman, the ladies' room.
I'm in the toilet. How am I invading your privacy?
Okay, so there is a manager, a male manager, it appears, in the restroom handling this situation.
Oh my God.
Okay. So, the trans woman is in a stall with the door shut, taking a shit. Not bothering anybody, not invading anyone's privacy. Got the door closed, not doing anything.
She probably ate some really nasty Denny's food, and now she's got to get rid of it.
Got to work it out.
Hello?
Just give us a second.
Do your homework before you speak. Give us a second.
Wait, you violated my right. You're sick, stupid sick.
So what right do you have here? What is the right? You have the right under the California Constitution to use the restroom without any, like, what? What right is being violated right now? And so the manager is like, lady, get out of here. Let me handle this. So she gets out. She walks, does a lap around the restaurant. She goes and sits back down, I think.
So that guy violated my right to use a ladies' room here. And he's saying he's a lady. Stupid guy. Oh, I'm going to wait for him to get out of the room.
That's got to be some kind of criminal something. I'm going to wait for him to get out of the room. Stupid.
I want to wait. I want to see him.
I want to see him.
This is so stupid in California. How they let people say he's a lady using. It's a man saying that he's a lady. He's using the ladies' room. That violated my privacy. He's been there for a long time. This is so stupid in California. This is what the politicians, the sick politicians, are approved. They put in danger a woman like me and some other customers that are trying to use the ladies' room with a man inside saying he's a lady. Stupid guy.
I'm just at a loss for words.
How is she being put in danger by somebody who's in a bathroom stall with the door shut, and she's the one going in there with a camera,
right?
And coming all on the attack?
How is your privacy violated?
If anything, the lady in the stall that's being harassed is the one in danger.
Who was in danger? You bet. The trans woman that's in the restroom being harassed by this.
And if I were that trans woman in the restroom, I'd be calling the police.
And only in California?
Yeah.
No.
California. Oh,
no. Anyway, I don't want to be racist. But no, it's not only in California. Because trans people use the restroom that I identify with all over the fucking place.
Right.
But again, this is a Republican candidate who's running for a seat. And, God, I want this to be damning.
Yeah.
I really want this to be damning. But I know that there's a base out there
Who will
who's
eat
like
it up.
playing with themselves, excitedly watching this.
He's coming. I want to see that.
You see that okay?
Yeah. Now I can't.
She's back in the bathroom.
Manager is here helping me, taking the guy out of the ladies' room. I want everyone to see this.
Here she comes out of the bathroom.
You're inviting my privacy.
Excuse me, I was using the toilet. How to invade your
Why you use
And it's a live video.
for no reason. And I've seen you yesterday following me.
Right? Said I saw you yesterday following me.
Oh, shit.
Right?
See, I didn't watch this yet. It's been all over the news feeds, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Oh, man. I hope that girl goes and gets a restraining order against that woman. Could a restraining order hurt her?
I don't know.
Like it...
Her candidacy.
Yeah.
So there's like 3 minutes left. I'm not going to play it.
Yeah.
But basically, the trans woman leaves. They're like yelling at each other back and forth. Like, how did I hurt? How did I violate your? How did I hurt you? And the woman's like, you violate my privacy. You violate my privacy.
No, actually, it's the other way around, dumbass.
So if one of these days, I'm gonna make another Patreon plea. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to combine the two sources here so that when we watch videos, we can play them on the live feed
video,
so that you can see it. So patreon.com/SarahTalk will help us get to that. But let me read to you what the Facebook post said. This is what she says. A man in a ladies' room saying he is a woman. Obama legacy. As your next congresswoman, I will fight to get our right to have a ladies' room just for us back. Vote for Jasmina for U.S. Congress 44th District. California, June 5th. Guys, I need you donate to our campaign.
Oh, my God.
And then it has a link to her website. Democratic Representative Nanette Diaz-Barragan, the incumbent of the district that Ceveda is running, challenging, wrote in a statement, I was appalled by the treatment that this woman received for simply trying to use the restroom. Everyone has the right to their own identity and the right not to be discriminated against for who they are. So, Californians in the 44th District re-elect Nanette Barragan.
Seriously.
Okay. Remember at the top of the segment when we promised that we would vote for leaders who make a positive change?
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll add to that promise that we'll vote for people who aren't complete total fucking idiots too.
Okay.
Alabama's Mo Brooks.
Oh God.
Republican representative was speaking during a hearing Wednesday by the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology about the role of technology in combating climate change, and asked a question that shows that he just doesn't understand how any of this works. Have a listen.
And the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Brooks, is recognized for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ever since human beings have been on the planet, sea levels have risen relative to ground levels. Why is that? Any of you can opine as you wish.
Well, I'd be happy to address that. Sea levels over the last 3 million years have gone up and down in line with the cycles of ice ages and interglacials, and I can expound on the science of that if you wish. The last 100-year increase in sea level rise, as I mentioned earlier, has clearly been attributed to human activities, greenhouse
That
gas
wasn't
emissions.
my question. I appreciate your wanting to expound on that.
Yeah.
My statement is that since human beings have been on Earth, sea levels have risen. What are the factors that have caused it to rise?
Well, as I said, sea levels have gone up and down.
That's Dr. Philip Duffy, president of Woods Hole Research Center, responding to Mo Brooks' questions here.
I'm talking net, not fluctuations. Let's assume for a moment that what you're talking about has some kind of factual, rational basis for it, that ice has melted. Are there other factors?
No, look,
No, there are not other factors?
Looking at
Yes
the
or no?
history of sea level rise is very informative. And one of the things we see, for example, is that the last time the global temperature was as high as it is.
Hey, Dr. Duffy, you're not answering my question again.
Okay.
I'm conceding for the moment that there has been ice meltage compared to what it was 3 million years ago, whatever, since that's the time frame you use. I'm asking another question, that is, what other factors have caused the sea levels to rise relative to dry land? Does anyone else have any? I mean, in particular, Dr. Duffy, you said that they're going to be massive. Isn't that the word that you use in your remarks? Massive sea level rises. Don't you think if you're going to have that kind of statement, you ought to have some idea as to what all the causes of sea level rises have been?
Sure.
Since
And
human beings have been on Earth?
if you're referring to ground subsidence, that is a factor in some regions.
And ground subsidence is like collapsing of the ground. Right.
Okay, what else? That's one. So now we've gotten two. What else?
Ground subsidence is not going to cause the levels of sea level rise that arouse my concern.
I'm just asking for factors. I was not asking for your prioritizing of one over the other. But you've mentioned two. What else?
Those are all that I know of.
What about erosion?
Okay, this is when it gets great. Because he's about to say basically like rocks falling into the ocean is a major contributor to sea level rise. You can't make this shit up.
Every single year that we're on Earth, you have huge tons of silt deposited by the Mississippi River, by the Amazon River, by the Nile, by every major river system, and for that matter, creek, all the way down to the smallest systems. And every time you have that soil or rock, or whatever it is that is deposited into the seas, that forces the sea levels to rise, because now you've got less space in those oceans because the bottom is moving up. What about
I'm pretty sure
the
that
White
that's
Cliffs of Dover, California, where you have the waves crashing against the shorelines, and time again you're having the cliffs crash into the sea. All of that displaces water, which forces it to rise, does it not?
I'm pretty sure that on human timescales, those are minuscule effects.
And he's right. So the Washington Post reported that it would take the equivalent of the top 5 inches of land from the entire surface area of the United States to cause the oceans to rise the 3.3 millimeters a year that we're currently measuring. Annually. The top 5 inches of the entire surface of the United States would have to fall into the oceans. The fuck are you talking about? Kids, this is why you stay in school. God. Okay, next, I want to address a post on the Sarah Talk Facebook page.
Oh, goody.
We shared a photo that someone had taken of a rant taped to a restroom mirror that said this: When you interrupt a girl's school day to force her to change clothes or send her home because her shorts are too short or her bra straps are visible, you are telling her that making sure boys have a distraction-free learning environment is more important than her education. Instead of shaming girls for their bodies, teach boys that girls are not sexual objects. And of course, we agree with that statement 100%, so
Absolutely.
we shared it to our Facebook. And our Facebook troll Bill had some comments for it.
Oh, Bill.
First, in a you won't get shot if you just do what the cops say Negro sort of way, he says, but if you know the dress code, why not just go along with it? And last I heard, the dress code was for all students, not just the female students. Perhaps, Becca, you are overthinking this.
Bill.
And then, in a men's right activist sort of way, complained that we didn't think his opinion mattered. Now, before I go on, Becca, you have the floor.
I said everything I needed to say, and he obviously didn't come back at me after the last one, but I'm ready for you, Bill. Come on back at me. Come for me. Come for me. Because you know what? I'm sorry. I grew up being told you can't dress a certain way because some man might want to rape you.
Yeah.
And you know what? I will not accept that that is how my daughter is going to grow up. And I will not accept that my son shouldn't have to learn how to control himself because it should be up to the girls around him to cover themselves. That is not, it's never worked. We're learning with this Me Too movement that so many people have been victims of sexual assault.
Yeah.
For so many decades.
Yep.
So whatever we were doing wasn't working. Next.
Right. In related news, earlier this week, a male high school student in Memphis, Tennessee, pulled a female student's dress up inside a classroom. The female student, the hero of the story, grabbed a pair of scissors and, according to police, made several swings before finally stabbing him with the pair of scissors. The boy claimed he was only playing and never exposed the girl, as if that's somehow a fucking defense, and was given a summons for sexual battery.
Good.
Now, here's where the story goes off the fucking tracks.
Oh, God.
The female student, the hero, who was defending herself, is facing juvenile aggravated assault charges for defending herself.
What the fuck? See, this is why we can't have nice things, people.
Yep. Let's stay on the men behaving badly train for a moment. A Toledo, we're almost done. No, we're not. 4 pages left. Jesus Christ. A Toledo, Ohio man was waiting to be sentenced on a rape charge from last year, which he pleaded no contest earlier this year. He was out on a $100,000 bond and was supposed to be sentenced for that case, but requested that sentencing be delayed so that he could attend his brother's high school graduation. While out on bond, Avery Schwartz allegedly raped yet another woman.
Oh, shit.
He's now being held on $750,000 bond for the new charge. Why bond? Why the fuck was he? I'm sure there's a legal reason that I don't understand.
Right.
Because I haven't listened to that episode of Opening Arguments or Habeas Humor yet. But you're on strike too. You don't get bond.
Yeah.
You don't get bond.
Especially if you're out on bond and you commit the same exact crime that you were.
He shouldn't have gotten the $100,000 bond in the first offense.
No, absolutely
and
not.
he sure as fuck shouldn't have gotten another bond in the second. I just legal
and
nerds.
Who's posting that bond for this asshole?
Right. Legal nerds, help me out because I don't get it, but it's fucking obnoxious.
So stupid.
Now, we are often critical of religion on the show, and particularly about abusers in the faith community, often faith leaders. So earlier this week, Pope Francis and the bishops of Chile held a 4-day crisis meeting about the cover-up of sexual abuse in the South American nation. All 34 bishops, in a very unprecedented move, offered to resign.
Whoa.
In a joint statement, the bishops said, quote, "We have put our positions in the hands of the Holy Father and will leave it to him to decide freely for each of us," end quote. So, now, but understand the distinction here. They offered to resign.
They didn't actually
resign.
Right.
And the Pope can still decide not to remove them. And at the time that I researched for this story, the Pope had not made a statement at all.
Right.
Here's what sparked the whole thing. In a Vatican investigation in 2011, Father Fernando Caradima was found guilty of abusing boys in the 70s and 80s, though he denied it. Bishop Juan Barros was accused of having witnessed the abuse, but not doing anything to stop it, and he continued to deny it. So, after a visit to Chile, the Pope sent an internal church investigator to speak with victims. But for a religion that has been plagued by sexual abuse of children and for decades covered it up, this is a major departure from the status quo. The Pope accused the bishops of grave negligence in investigating allegations that children had been abused and saying evidence of sex crimes had been destroyed. So, I'm glad you're starting to clean your house, I guess, is what I want to say about that. This seems like a genuine effort to say, I'm the Pope, that was wrong. Somebody's gonna fall for this, and stop hiding sex abuse.
Right.
And so, people act like the Pope is like the fucking, I don't know,
he's the Pope,
the Prince of Canterbury or something, and we should care about, he's some kind of fucking celebrity, but he's just the Pope. Who cares?
But he's the Pope.
But I don't care. So, But anyway, so in that position for him to, be making a public sort of statement about it, I think is a good move on the part of the Catholic Church.
Well, and they need to clean house, but they also need to go back and take care of those victims.
Right?
Give them the resources to get the psychological help to heal.
Yeah.
It's not get rid of the bad guys, but also, these people are going to have trauma for years. And it's really hard to get over trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're truly concerned about the salvation of these people, if that's your main goal, is to make sure that they're healthy and they're whatever. Right. People with wounds like that often either go very deep into religion or very much the opposite way.
Sure.
So if you're not taking care of that, you're going to find, I don't know. Anyway.
Okay. We're at the 2-hour mark here, but I have one more story that I want to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of maybe the long segment, if it ends up being that. And it's a sad story, but I'm going to try to keep us on track here and discuss the issue behind the story more so than the story itself.
Okay.
And this story hits home in a few ways for me personally, and because of the personal nature of that story, I don't want to talk about it publicly. But this story will sort of maybe let me at some of those issues from a position adjacent. So, a 13-year-old boy, Trenton McKinley of Mobile, Alabama, was playing at a friend's house 2 months ago, riding in a small trailer being pulled by a children's dune buggy. His friend hit the brakes suddenly, causing the trailer to flip. He says he threw his friend's 4-year-old niece off into the grass, but the trailer landed on the top of his head. After that, he doesn't remember anything. So, see, this is a really tragic story, but stick with me here. He was rushed for emergency surgery with 7 skull fractures. His mother, Jennifer Rindle, said he was dead a total of 15 minutes. And when he came back, doctors said the oxygen deprivation would have been so bad that he would basically be brain dead and never be the same. After spending a few days on life support and barely breathing, doctors approached the mother to make a very difficult decision, and she and Trenton's father signed papers to donate his organs. A day before doctors were going to remove life support, Trenton started showing small signs of cognition. He's been slowly improving beyond anyone's expectations, but still deals with a lot of pain and seizures. Now, here's where I start having a hard time. Okay? Commiserating hard right now. Like, I can't fucking imagine going through something like this with your kid. Trenton says, quote, I was in an open field walking straight. There's no other explanation but God. There's no other way. Even doctors said it. End quote. He believes he was in heaven while he was gone. And let me be clear, I'm glad he's recovering as well as he is. Glad for that. I'm glad nobody died. But, and this is a problem that I have with the God of tragedy in general, right? We're always quick to give God the credit, but when it comes to why didn't he prevent it, God always gets a fucking pass. If the child had died, it must have been his time. God's will. God needed another angel, which is, by the way, the most disgusting fucking argument I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this I saw heaven bit. Again, please try to step back with me emotionally from the story for a minute and just consider this. Do you think if this boy had been born a Sikh in India, would he have believed that he had been reincarnated while he was gone? What if he had been born a Muslim in Syria? Would he believe he had been with Allah? Or was it by the very nature that he'd been exposed to Christianity and the God of Christianity and only Christianity that he believed he was in the Christian heaven and gave the Christian God all of the credit? And also this comment about, and the doctors all said it too. You're leading the witness to it, very honestly.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's studies to back this up, okay? No one who was raised to believe in white Republican Jesus wakes up from a coma and says, I saw Odin, or Allah, or Vishnu, or Zeus, or whoever. No, it's always whatever God they'd been indoctrinated into.
Mm-hmm.
And assuming my argument is correct, then what? If it makes him and his family feel good, then it's fine, right? Well, again, I have some concerns. What I haven't seen mentioned anywhere in any of the articles that I read to prepare for this, what about the incredibly skilled, talented doctors and nurses who actually saved this boy's life? Where's their fucking credit? Whenever we give God the glory for miracle healings, we dismiss the humans who really put in the hard work to provide the medical care. And even saying like, well, you know, God helped them study and get their certification or what, that's dismissive. And if they couldn't, like they couldn't have learned those skills without God, it's just super dismissive.
Yeah.
And in the end, the brain is an organ that we have only begun to understand.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about serious brain trauma, all kinds of things can happen. But at the end of the day, if it's the God of the gaps fallacy, right? Like, I think it's intellectually dishonest to say, we don't know how he could possibly have survived this injury, therefore God. Like, no, it's more likely there's a scientific explanation that we just don't know. We haven't figured it out yet.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I wanted to treat this,
right.
And I hope that it has come off this way, that, like, I'm not trying to attack a grieving family.
No,
right?
Of course not.
I don't want it to be about this family and this child. This is an example, and again, this is close to home.
Yeah.
I've been through a thing like this too.
I think, you know, brain development, anything to do with the brain, we're just touching like the tip of the iceberg as far as science is concerned. And, you know, like you go to sleep at night and your brain does things and you have dreams and you dream about all kinds of crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
I have to think that if you're in a coma and you're dreaming about you know what I mean? Like, I do think that whatever his brain was doing, it had to be definitely influenced by the knowledge that he already had there.
Yes.
Because
so imagine a situation where all of these same things happened, exactly an identical situation to a child who'd never been introduced to God.
Right.
Would he have said, I saw heaven and I saw
Right.
God, not knowing what those concepts were?
Right.
Or was this an indoctrination?
Right. Or you know, like it could, very easily it could have been, you know, like our son. You know? Okay, so say you take a kid like that who's not been indoctrinated.
Right.
Something terrible happens and they wake up and they go, well, I was at Legoland and you know, like,
right.
It's whatever's, your brain holds so much more than you can even comprehend.
Yep.
And I do believe that there's a scientific explanation for what was going on.
Right. So take back step. Take, for example, the doctor said he's not going to get any better. You just need to make the decision now. What are we doing? Right? Guys, doctors can be wrong. That doesn't mean it was a miracle.
Right.
Right? Doctors are people and they make mistakes.
Like,
and maybe, you know, they given the evidence that they had on hand, they were correct in extrapolating, this is the evidence, this is the likelihood of the outcome.
Right.
Right? And then things happen that we just didn't understand. But that doesn't mean that it was God.
And that happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And maybe not as much in severe cases like this, but there are plenty of times you go to a doctor and they make a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, I was told to take my 2-week-old infant home, that I was just being a helicopter parent. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in the emergency room with her and she's got pneumonia and fluid on her lungs and RSV.
Yeah.
Because the doctors made a mistake.
Right.
So it happens all the time. And the reason that it happens is because we don't have all the science yet.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have all the answers yet. But just because we don't have the answers, that doesn't prove that there's a God out there who is, I can't.
Yeah.
And if there is, great. He's got a lot to answer for. But when you look at something like a medical issue and you're looking at the science involved and you only have so much science, you know, there's going to be gaps.
Mm-hmm.
But just because a doctor says this, that's not, you know, it's not written in stone ever.
Yeah. So I've tried to stay away from the emotional, like this specific incident, and I hope that's come across. You know, again, I would say to step into that for a moment. The way I treat religion and tragedy is, if it helps you get through your thing, it helps you get through your thing, right? Well, like I would never roll up on, you know, these people and be like, how dare you say, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Right. I hope, and again,
because
like,
we've seen it work. You can see when somebody's going through something and they're turning to God for comfort. You can see it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to like stomp on that.
Right.
Because they're going through something.
Right.
But, you know, like we're here just trying to look at the other side of it and be like, okay, let's kind of use some logic here.
For the rest of us who are not going through this thing right now.
Right.
Like let's take a step back and let's look through.
Like have some critical thinking about it.
Right.
Why do you think he dreamt of heaven while he was in a coma?
Right.
Like, would he have dreamt of heaven if he was raised as a Buddhist monk?
Right.
Who had, you know, like, would it have been the same thing?
So feel free to yell at me on Facebook and Twitter.
She's used to it.
I'm quite all
Bill,
right with
still
that.
waiting for you, dude.
Hey, that's it for the show tonight. Thank you guys. 2 hours and 15 minutes or something like that. I don't know. We've gone quite long.
So good though.
But yeah, such a great show. But I love you guys for sticking around with us and tuning into the live show. Again, that's the fun of it, is to, you know, interact with you all while we're doing this thing live. That's a lot of fun. Confessions of a Teenage Jesus Jerk is available now at fine booksellers. And of course, we would kindly ask that you use our special link to purchase this book, which supports both indie booksellers and our podcast. And that link will be all over our social media and on the show notes of this episode, episode 111. The film is available to stream on a variety of outlets as well. Many thanks to Tony Duchesne for spending an hour with us tonight. That was fucking great.
Totally awesome.
Yeah. Next week, Will Mason will be joining us. Will wrote a wonderful children's book about a young boy with a kind rainbow heart who changes the sad town of Gray into the accepting, loving, and colorful town of Shine. It's a great book, and they're doing some really cool stuff with schools and getting this book in front of kids.
I really love this book,
teaching them
too.
acceptance and love, and it's fucking
amazing.
Great. So
our kids need them all.
Right. So that'll be next week. We'll talk to Will Mason next week. Don't miss that. He'll be live with us on the Saturday show. Thank you for our wonderful patrons at patreon.com/SarahTalk. Part-time patron Russell, Andrea, Josie, Harry, the Wayward Willis podcast, Mandy, Stacy, Megan, AJ, and Eric. Go to SarahTalk.com for all things Sarah Talk. I added a link to the bookstore so that you can easily get to the books that we discuss on the show. You can go there and print out your flat Jesus. Please do. Those are lots of fun. Send us your flat Jesus pictures. Put Jesus in all sorts of fun, precarious, and questionable situations. And then join our Facebook group, our discussion group, to talk about the topics that we discuss on the show.
Yeah, if you're not in that group, by the way, you really should be.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, we have a cool group of people in there. All right, so that's it for this week. 8 p.m. Eastern is when we do this thing live on Facebook. Follow the Sarah Talk Facebook page to get live notifications and be part of the show. Thank you for tuning in. That was a lot.
It was a lot.
All right, we'll see you next week. You've been listening to Sarah Talk.
Sarah Talk is made possible by listener support. Visit patreon.com/SarahTalk to become a patron and help keep this program going. Contact Sarah and Company by email at producer@sarahtalk.com or call 224-40-SARAH. That's 224-407-2724. And follow us on social media, facebook.com/SarahTalkRadio and on Twitter @SarahTalkRadio. Sarah Talk is a production of Sarah Austin Media.